What's going on, people? Welcome back to another Nomad Fitness education portal. We're talking about fiber today. It is overlooked, underappreciated. A lot of y'all are not eating fiber, and kind of your ideas surrounding fiber are misguided through marketing BS. So let's dive into things. Let's understand what it is. If I can get this to go. Aha. So, fiber. 95% of American adults don't get enough fiber according to the CDC. What does that mean? It looks like 15 to 18 grams per day on average, when in reality the RDI recommended dietary intake daily is 25 Gs for women, 38 Gs for men. So for each 1,000 calories, we're looking for 14 grams of fiber. So that's looking like a 2K cal day for women, 2,500 to 3K cal for men. Now, this is the easiest nutrition fix with the biggest payoff. It's just a couple of small switches, implementation of some foods, and you're going to be feeling so much better performance-wise, hormone levels, cognitive ability, sleep, digestion. I don't know if I already said that, but big payoff here. So if you are under eating in fiber, you're probably feeling bloated, constipated, hungry right after a meal. You probably have that 2 p.m. crash reaching for that second cup of coffee, not feeling satiated after a meal. You know, they have that saying with Chinese food, you're hungry in an hour, typically because there's no fiber in those meals, which leads you to overeat later, inflammation, binging later on due to the lack of satiety. There's brain fog, there's chronic low energy just because we are not being fueled properly or absorbing these nutrients effectively. So if this looks like you at all, you probably need more fiber. What is fiber? It is a non-digestible carbohydrate found naturally in, let me move this out of the way, plant foods that resist digestion and absorption in the small intestine, reaching the colon, where it is partially or fully fermented by gut bacteria. Think of corn. I'm not sure if you have seen Austin Powers, but Fat Bastard talking about corn. You know, it's like a running joke. The same way it goes in is the same way it looks like when it goes out. That's because it is fibrous. It is not entirely broken down, so it goes through the gut, out the other end, looking like corn. So it's different than other carbohydrates, starches, and sugars. Those are absorbed immediately for energy and into the bloodstream. Fiber takes a different route. Now, what is fiber? It can be broken up into two different categories, soluble and insoluble. Soluble dissolves in water, slows down digestion, binds to cholesterol. This is partially digested and it is food for gut bacteria. Insoluble, it does not dissolve in water, so it makes a pretty smooth passage, or not so smooth, it creates roughage, through the colon, through the GI tract, and that's what pushes things out. Stays largely intact, and it stimulates intestinal contractions called peristalsis. So let's dive into the soluble fiber. We can look at this as a sponge. So it absorbs things. As it is slowly being broken down, it produces a gel-like substance in your gut. This slows down digestion of carbohydrates, meaning a more gradual glucose absorption. So as opposed to your blood sugar spiking immediately upon consumption of a carbohydrate, slows things down and makes more of a slow, steady pace for the glucose to be absorbed into your bloodstream. So that's what mitigates the crash. That's what mitigates the rapid influx of blood sugar levels. So this means steadier blood sugar and energy, improved insulin sensitivity. This way there's no crash than a spike, lowers cholesterol, healthier gut microbiome, and smoother digestion. So less bloating, less gas, less crashing. Where can we find these bad boys? Grains, legumes, fruits, veggies. I can guarantee that you can find items in this list or the insoluble fibers list that you do enjoy. So there are no exceptions or no excuses as to why you should not be hitting these numbers, whether they are cooking procedures or seasoning or how to saute. There are ways to make all of these fit within your nutritional patterns and give you the benefit of having more fiber throughout your day. So chia seeds, flax seeds, psyllium husk, lentils, black beans, kidney beans, chickpeas. For the fruits, we want all the skin on. That is the fiber right there. Same idea with the potatoes, the carrots. We want all of the skin on the fruits, on the veggies. That's the fibrous part. That's the outer portion of the plant. So going into the nitty-gritty of the soluble fiber, it binds and it excretes excess estrogen, important for both males and females. This is fat loss, mood, libido. It binds to it and gets it out of the system. If it's lingering around for too much, we don't want that, and that's not beneficial for us, right? We may have had cholesterol readings, and we have high LDL, so low-density lipoproteins. Soluble fiber is going to lower that over time, so it gets rid of bile. How is bile created? Through the breakdown of short-chain fatty acids, which are in your gut, and that goes into your intestine through bile. Again, if that is lingering around for too much, or it's old and it's sitting in your colon for too long, you got a lot of LDL, low density. It's not a lot of stuff inside of it, so the fiber is going to bind to that and get it out of there. So it's going to lower that LDL, make room for more HDL, high-density lipoprotein. The good cholesterol. It's also going to naturally trigger and increase the production of GLP-1 and reduce the production of ghrelin. What the hell is that? GLP-1, I'm sure you've heard it before. Wegovy or the other, fat diet injections that are going around these days. GLP-1 is a peptide is naturally created within your stomach to trigger satiety. That is the production of ghrelin. So ghrelin and leptin are hunger hormones. Ghrelin tells you that you are hungry. Leptin tells you that you are satiated. So ghrelin, hunger, your stomach is rumbling. If that is constantly high because we are always eating or have the insulin sensitivity that is very low, we're going to be hungry all the time. So by having more fiber, that's going to keep you satiated for longer. That's going to naturally produce that GLP-1. It's going to increase your insulin sensitivity and not make you hungry all the time. So that's a benefit right there. This way we are not going to pharmaceuticals or getting exogenous peptides pumped into us, strictly from whole foods, which is great. By adding 5 G's of fiber to your diet weekly, that is a great way to get on track. If we're at 18 grams, we don't immediately want to go to 35 grams. That would cause some bloating, some GI irritation, some gas. But if we're at 18 this week, go to 23 next week, ride it out, have a little bit more fluid, and you'll be in some pretty good shape, and you'll be on your way to getting all of these symptoms under control. As opposed to putting a Band-Aid on it, we're addressing the actual root cause of why we are gaseous and bloated and all that. Moving into insoluble fiber. This is looked at like the broom. So we got the sponge, slows things down, slows down digestion, increases satiety, kind of absorbs everything. Whereas insoluble fiber, it's gonna sweep you out, if you will. So this passes through the GI tract largely intact, adding bulk, creating friction, and triggering contractions. That is the peristalsis we were talking about. Think of this as the weight room for your colon. Just like any other organ, it's a muscle, and it must be worked out. So if we are constantly eating purees of mashed potatoes and mashed up carrots or Mars bars and caramel, we're not really going to have the need to contract the colon and press things out. So that's where we have that constipation, because the muscle is underdeveloped of the colon. So by having insoluble fiber, it roughs up the walls a little bit more and promotes those contractions to make bowel movements a little bit more regular. So it improves bowel regularity, prevents constipation and bloating, reduce the risk of diverticulitis and hemorrhoids by scrubbing the walls and making sure nothing is staying inside of your colon for too long. Helps your gut detoxify naturally. It is not a green juice smoothie that you need or some type of pill To detox, it is just having more whole foods, and that starts with fiber. Supports nutrient absorption as well. Where can we find these? Veggies, grains, nuts, seeds, similar to the soluble fiber food list, but here we have a little bit more roughage right here in our nuts. Cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, a little bit rougher foods right here as well that do not fully digest or ferment in the gut. Here's the corn that we were talking about. Grapes, prunes, berries, again, seeds. You can find items within this list that you do enjoy and you can find adding into your grocery cart. Diving in a little bit deeper. Triggers does not ferment in the gut. Instead, it triggers peristalsis. Typo, my apologies. The voluntary contractions of the intestinal wall to move contents through. So again, it's flexing. It's contracting the intestinal walls to move. It also is going to reduce and prevent mucosal thinning. So when there are a bunch of old news in the intestine, in the colon, it packs up like plaque on the walls. And when your intestinal walls are aggravated, they reduce. They kind of ebb back like a wave, right? So they thin. By scrubbing the walls, getting off all the plaque and the tartar and the stuff that's been sitting in there for a little bit too long, it promotes your mucosal walls being thicker, richer. That's also going to promote better nutrient absorption for when the food does pass through. It's also crucial during high protein caloric deficit to maintain proper passage and nutrient absorption through the colon. So typically when we're in a high protein diet, we reduce carbohydrates, we reduce fruits, vegetables to have the high protein. So having most of your carbohydrates coming from insoluble fiber, that does exactly this. It does exactly this, and allow the protein to be absorbed more efficiently, more effectively. Every 10 grams of added fiber, you want to add 1 extra cup of water daily. So both the insoluble and soluble fiber are not as effective if you are chronically dehydrated. So just like the sponge, it needs water in order for it to work. So if you are having a ton of fiber in your day, but you're still chronically not drinking well, it's just going to constipate you. It's going to make matters worse. So fiber and water definitely go hand in hand, and something to be mindful of when you are paying attention to fiber. Application of this. Now, like what we were saying, we don't want to go 0 to 100. Slowly integrate 5 grams of extra fiber and 8 ounces of water per day over the week, right? We don't want to do one day and then the next day do 5 more and then do 5 more. Just give it gradual time. You know, your body, like anything else, is a system. It needs time to acclimate to the new stimulus. Pick 5 items, soluble and insoluble, to make additions into your meals. Broccoli, sweet potatoes, berries, almonds. These can all find a place in order to make everything in your life a whole lot better. I'm going to dive into just a couple of meal plans. You can screenshot these or double back. These are just mock things to throw together to show you that it's really not that difficult to hit these benchmarks for the day. So for breakfast, sourdough, whole eggs. We got carbs, some protein, good source of fiber in the avocado, strawberries and blueberries. You can just sprinkle those in there. So already you have 10 grams of fiber. This is going to set you up to not crash in an hour and a half by the time you get to the office and have you ravenous come lunchtime. It's also going to help you digest and absorb the protein and not have your blood sugar spike from the carbohydrates. Now we're hitting lunch. Chicken breast and rice, beautiful. Now we have our veggies in there, 1.5 cups. So that's going to be where your fiber is. Again, going to help you maintain everything, pass things through from breakfast, and also not spike your blood sugar or leave you ravenous for dinner. Having the snack, another 5 grams, and another 5 grams for dinner. So just sprinkle these in here and make just a mindful shift towards that. This is just adding some zucchini, adding some chia seeds. You throw those in your yogurt or even a shake. You don't even taste it if you are super, not about seeds or anything. Can't even taste it. Zucchini, you can saute these, you can salt these, you can fry them up quick, dice them up, however you go about things, but just paying a little bit more attention towards our fiber intake. Now this is one for 2.5K days, or 2.5K calories. This is going to be a little bit higher in fiber, but the idea itself does not change. We still have our blueberries and avocado for breakfast. This is not a big deal. Peppers, carrots, broccoli for lunch, getting some seeds for our snack, and then some green beans or zucchini once again for dinner. So just sprinkling it in, 10 grams, give or take, per meal, and you're sitting in a good spot. Now, circling back to where we were in the beginning about the marketing BS, there has been just a whole horde of zero net carbs. We have these trigger words where keto is, a fun thing to be a part of, and carbs are the enemy, and zero net carbs is what we're looking for. That is 100% BS. If you can look at a slice of bread and tell me that is not a carbohydrate, then something's wrong. That's preying on the gullible, then them being upset that their program or nutrition plan is not working for them. So fiber does not negate the energetic balance of the body only because it is fibrous. If you were to have a Twix bar that has 20 grams of carbohydrates inside of it, and then you go and eat a cup of chia seeds and some broccoli, tell me, are there zero net carbs now because you ate it at the same time? No, that's not what happens. It just mitigates the blood sugar levels rapidly rising. It does not affect the calories. Carbohydrates are calories. They maintain calories. By having no net carbs, does that mean, we're taking away calories or the substance itself of the macronutrient? No. So always track total calories and bear in mind fiber for the day. Do not be fueled by health foods. A bagel does not have carbs. Just wanted to get that out there because I see a lot of people, gravitating towards these meals where they are going to be artificial. It's going to leave you bloated and less digestion happening than before the fact. So if you are going for fibrous foods, don't go for the BS added fiber, zero net carb craziness that's going on over here. Whole foods, that'll get your fiber, that'll make sure you are digesting properly, reduce inflammation, improve satiety, regain hormonal balance, and have some proper BMs. There's too many constipated folks out there, or even if you have diarrhea as well, that would be excellent to add in your insoluble fiber. That would be a good check mark to see. So eat fruits, vegetables, beans, grains, and don't cut out any particular food groups. Keto. Eat the rainbow and your body will reflect that. So get in there, get your fiber, stop skimping on it, and your body will thank you. All right, see you at the next one.